I'm going to tell you a little bit about our panelists and what they're doing currently. And if you guys want to get into your backgrounds during the conversation, I'll let you handle that. So first, we'll go with Amy LaMeyer. She is managing partner at WXR Fund, where they invest in female founders of XR and AI companies. Audrey Pang, next to her, is operating principal at Iconic Partners, where they invest in software and data companies in the second chasm. Patrick Lohr, next to me, managing partner at Panache Ventures, and is well known as the co-founder of iStock Photo, which was sold to Getty Images in 2006. Getty Images, quite topical right now. And Marco Demiroz. Sorry, Marco. We practiced this. General partner of the Venture Reality Fund. Marco started his career working for NASA. He was notably the president and CEO of Play First, a leading mobile game studio, which was sold to a subsidiary of Electronic Arts. All of these panelists are influencing what innovations come to be by allocating capital required to bring such innovations to life. In preparation for this panel over the past couple of weeks, I've had some amazing conversations with each of them. And then this past week, the bank for 50% of US venture-backed tech and life sciences companies collapsed. And it felt necessary to bring up this topic with folks that are at the forefront of what's taking place here. And so maybe I'll just ask Amy if you can kick it off by telling us just what is the past, call it 72 hours, and currently what things look like for you, what type of conversations you're having.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting time. We'll use that word, and stressful for a lot of the startups. So first, what we did obviously is connect with all of our startups in our portfolio and see where they banked, and then made a plan, and then looked at our own fund and saw if there's any risk and activated that. But Marco and I were talking earlier, like we're checking the news, fairly frequently to see if there's been any update. The hope is that another bank acquires this bank and that assets will free up over the next, some percentage this coming week, so that companies can actually function, and then the rest of it over the next 3 to 6 months.
Maybe as a follow-up to that, Patrick, do you think if someone doesn't step in, one of these banks or the Fed, do you think that there's going to be a greater calamity that occurs?
Yeah, I think that the calamity is already happening. And so I think all of you are reading the news, so I don't know if I can add anything original here, other than to say this, is that the very act of being an entrepreneur, being an investor in this field, means that you're a dreamer, you're an optimist. And we believe in a reality that most other people don't believe, right? So when we get in a room with our friends and family, we talk about the shit that we talk about, people just go, yeah, whatever, right? And so, best encapsulated in Steve Jobs' words, reality distortion field. And we all are building our own reality distortion fields here. And what's happened here is we've taken the reality distortion field to the core. And this is really, really important for everyone to remember, is that when we go out and we say we hope this stuff is going to happen, and the response that comes back is hope is not a plan, now everyone starts to question everything. What we're questioning here is our banking system. Like, our construct of money is like, it's not real, right? I mean, but when you dig into it, we got more than 20-to-1 leverage on the money in the banks. The entire system cannot withstand a bank run, right? Imagine if everyone took money out of the bank and stuffed it into their mattresses, it'd be 3 to 5% of the money that's in the bank that can be pulled out. That's all the money we have in the system, right? And so once you start to question that, everything gets questioned. right? And then you cannot get business done. I think that's a reality.
Well, so I think it's important to remember that the system, as it were, Pat, is better capitalized than it's ever been, right? And what I've been thinking about a lot over the last 24 hours is the classic Mr. Rogers quote, right? In any crisis, look to the helpers. And so with the panel just went before us, right? Like the word du jour, I think, is community, right? Tech is a community. We are here helping each other, right? So our first 24 hours, aside of risk management, of course, right, was reaching out to our community, reaching out to our stakeholders, our friends and family and colleagues, right, that have been impacted as SVB and beyond, and just reaching out to help and share knowledge, capital, right, people, resources. So community. It's always community first.
Marco, anything to add before we switch gears?
For those who don't know, the US model is you get $250K insured by the federal government, which they will get it by tomorrow morning. And the remaining balance becomes uninsured deposit. And in the past, FDIC gave about 50% of the money within a week, so they could get 50%. The remaining will be distributed as they liquidate assets. So as we speak, there's an auction going on to purchase SVB assets. And I guess Fed will announce it tomorrow. But going back to entrepreneurs, they have done nothing wrong. They just deposit money in a bank that is top 20 bank in the US. And they've been around for 40 years. But if you really want to look at what happened, is really you have to look at the management of the bank.
Thanks. So switching gears to the topic of the panel, investing in a new world of innovation. Innovation is such a nebulous term. You know, there can be innovation in auto manufacturing or the next iPhone that we're going to all purchase. And I'm curious, what areas of innovation are each of you excited about in particular?
Yeah. Well, we've, in the past, we've invested, we thought we were only going to invest in software, B2B SaaS, consumer SaaS, really just boring stuff. That was probably the line 10 years ago. And I think in recent times, everything's become digitized. And so we've invested in just about anything. Anything where it's code heavy, we're investing in. So one of our core Vancouver holdings is Sanctuary.ai. When we looked at Jordy, we just said, Jordy and Suzanne, we just said, okay, they're brilliant, but are we investing in a hardware company, a robotics company? And they basically said, look, it's majority code. And so then all of a sudden that gives us license to invest in that. We're investing in computational biology companies. So now biology and chemistry isn't being done in wet labs primarily. Most of that is switching over to computers. So we've done everything from cell phone hardware companies, computational biology companies, which will be the future drug development companies, robotics. Everything across the board is fair game as long as it has code in it.
I'm really excited to follow Pat because we invest in boring B2B software. But I find it very exciting and interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, all we're looking to do is solve problems for people, right? And so even our very boring B2B software companies are being powered, have very exciting product roadmaps by way of AI, right? AI helps people make better decisions. We've got the most boring B2B software in ERP, but what is more exciting than helping school districts and nonprofits make better decisions, right? So I think we're always investors in innovation, right? I prepped for this panel by doing a very old school research of like, back in the day, you'd open the dictionary and be like, what is the definition of innovation? And then maybe you'd put it in Wikipedia. And today I put it in ChatGPT to figure out what innovation is before I started. But it turns out it's investing in new things and things that significantly make things better. So.
And I'm excited to follow that because one of the drivers of WXR Fund, which stands for Women in XR, was looking at, as we move into this new spatial computing landscape, VR, AR, and how AI impacts that as well. How do we make sure that there's a more diverse set of people building for that space? Being part of the gaming industry and part of the technology industry in the past, Martina Welkoff, my partner, and I really feel strongly that it's important to have more diverse voices in that. So, working with early supporters like Marco and others have focused that as a very specific thesis.
Yeah, from our perspective, this is sort of Cassandra's and Dan's frontier type thing. So our starting point was Fund 1 the future of computing. And we said combination of AI, AR, and VR will define what's going to happen in the future. And we started investing in 2016. And under the future of computing, we made a number of sort of AI investments, XR investments. You might know some of them, Rec Room, Beat Saber, and Alchemy, plus some boring enterprise companies that you may not know, but they're doing really well. So the second fund has been about the future of the internet. You might call it Web3 or Metaverse. And we're still investing in the same tech vectors, AI, AR, VR, and we're adding blockchain and 5G. So in the second fund portfolio, again, it's a combination of consumer and enterprise investments, primarily in seed and A round stages.
Now, whether it be from software or AI, VR, AR, at some point in time, these industries have garnered hype. And I'm curious, Marco, maybe I'll put this to you. How do you cut through the noise as an investor?
Yeah, by the way, I do hate that graph that everybody uses, goes up and down and up again. You know, for us, this is really a long journey. And, you know, when we invest in a company, we want to see that there's a sort of near-term commercial viability. So all of our companies are expected to have a commercial product within 69 months after the round is closed. We were unable to predict what's going to happen in 18 months or 24 months. Plus, we both are coming from the mobile gaming background, getting out there, iterating like crazy, using analytics to understand user behaviors, and then updating it is extremely important, especially in a frontier tech environment. So that's been really our operating mantra, to make sure that we're investing long-term opportunities, but they have near-term validity, regardless of the hype cycle and everything else.
Patrick, maybe I'll ask a similar question in a different way to you. What was investing like in the frothy environment of, call it, 2020 and 2021?
I think all of you experience this, is that anybody with a business plan, actually not even a business plan, like a business concept, could just hit a VC up and they would just get all excited. And, you know, you create FOMO. You basically say, hey, this is closing in 3 days. Everybody's in. Are you in or not? As if you were stupid if you're not in. We resisted that. I think there's a lot of hype. And I think if you come back to today, the realization is this, is that you weren't as hot as you thought you were a year and a half ago, and you're not as cold as they're telling you today. So there's a lot of market-driven stuff, and there's a lot of crazy shit happening today. So for instance, USDC dropped 14%, because USDC had put something like $1 billion or more onto SVB. Right?
3.3.
Yeah, 3.3. Yeah. So I mean, it's an issue, right? And I think what it says, if you tie in a couple of these themes, where do we need to put our money? We need to understand that the reality that we're building, or the reality that we're trying to build, isn't there yet. Not a lot of people are using it. You know, even the reality that we're trying to build as far as cryptocurrencies go, still get backed on real life banks, right? And so it tells you there's a lot of money in traditional industries. And so boring SaaS companies still work. Most of industry hasn't been digitized yet. So yeah, I think that, you know, for me, balanced portfolio says that a lot of boring companies, and that helps fund the really crazy bets in your portfolio.
Speaking of boring SaaS, Audrey, a question for you. In 2011, Andreessen, sorry, I didn't mean for that to have any context.
I'm very excited by boring things. It's okay.
Andreessen coined in 2011, "Software is eating the world." I'm curious your thoughts, how that's playing out in the context of today.
I don't know. Does anybody disagree with that statement 10 years later? I think an earlier statement today was tech's no longer vertical, right? It's just horizontal, it's everywhere. And by the way, that is part of why the fallout is going to be relatively broad, right? Because we're all very connected ecosystem. I think that software has eaten the world, right? Anybody who's doesn't acknowledge it, still note every company is basically a tech company today, right? Even the most boring old world 1.0 companies, right? So I do think that software has eaten the world. I think that cloud computing unlocked a new generation of innovation and made tech accessible to a lot more folks. And AI ML, by the way, is going to do it again, right? And so I think that today it's no longer a provocative statement, right? But I don't think we're anywhere near the end of it either.
I asked Amy what turned her on to augmented reality originally, and she was at CES when the first headset launched. And Amy, I'm curious, what's your hot take on VR, AR then and now?
Yeah, and just to clarify, not when the first headset launched, but
sorry.
some early Vive, the Rift and the Vive, for those of you that are really familiar with VR. The headsets have been around for decades, but this generation of headsets, I think we still have a ways to go in terms of comfort, cost, and content, and I think all of those three legs are the thing that we need to actually make this thing ubiquitous. But I think it'll happen. The future is there. It's here.
And Marco, what is a practical application of VR that you think people in this room might not have thought about yet?
VR? Okay.
VR.
Or XR in general?
Or XR in general?
So I'll tell you a VR story, but it'll be a short one. So the aha moment for my partner was, if you know Tipitat has been in VR since DK1 came out, and he and I used to meet in these dark garages, trunk open, he would put a headset on, show me the latest and greatest Matrix simulation he was running. To make it short, he discovered that he cured his height phobia through these Matrix simulations. You follow Morpheus. If you don't jump, then you fall down. So Tipitat cured his phobia through VR. That was really the aha moment why we started the fund. The second one is that people may not know is that COVID vaccination was really initiated, or I would say accelerated, through a combination of AR and AI technologies coming from a company called Apprentice. It's our portfolio company, I'm sorry. But they use Canadian RealWear headsets and combine that with AI and AR and to automate the whole pharmaceutical manufacturing during the pandemic. So you didn't have to be in the same room with other people. You can monitor through the glasses and use the AI to optimize the whole workflow. So they ended up being a part of 7 different vaccines.
Remarkable. Now, there's a couple panelists that are running to a call, and I've also got the wrap it up comment. As sad as I am to finish this panel, thanks very much, you guys. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thanks for moderating.
Thank you.